Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening, councillors, and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of council. Welcome also to members of the public that have joined us this evening, either in person or watching on the live stream, together with our security team. If any members of the public object to being part of the live stream, please advise us immediately and we will ensure that you're not included in the filming. May I also take this opportunity to welcome Councillor Adrian Whittle, who, to his first council meeting here, having recently been elected to Newmarket East Ward. Welcome, Councillor. Thank you. With so many of us in the room, may I politely ask you to keep the background noise to a minimum, especially when somebody else is speaking. Please don't chatter in the background. Can you turn your mobile devices to silent, please? And members are asked to refrain from interrupting speakers and that the debate must be undertaken through me as chair. Should anyone wish to have access to the hearing loop, the officers are available to assist. And before we start, please ensure that you have inserted your cards into the microphone and pressed the enter meeting prompt, which will appear on the screen. I'll be using the queue to speak system function, and therefore please press your microphone button when you wish to speak during the debate, and that will place you in the queue. When it comes to your chance to speak and I say, Andrew, speak, you do not have to touch your microphone again. You don't press the button again. Our good technical guy over there will ensure that you're live and ready to speak.
Thank you, Chair.
My pleasure. So, turning to the agenda. Item number 1 is announcements to include apologies for absence. So I will invite our Deputy Monitoring Officer to make any announcements and to inform of apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies from the following councillors. That's Richard Rout, Karen Soons, Rachel Hood, Andrew Speed and Tracy Whitehand.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Thank you. Now, I shall move on to item number 2, which is declarations of interest. Now, a dispensation has been granted for all members to allow you to speak and to vote on matters concerning devolution and or local government reorganisation, all at the West Suffolk Council meetings, where you may otherwise have a disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest or non-registerable interest through your membership of and or receipt of allowances from West Suffolk Council, the Suffolk County Council, where relevant. But you have that dispensation, as local government reorganisation is the only substantive item on this agenda. I shall move directly on to the next item, which is public participation, and on this occasion no members of the public have registered to speak. Item number 4, local government reorganisation, and I call upon Councillor Waterman to introduce this item and move the motion. Councillor Waterman.
Many thanks, Chair. So today, before us today, is a motion asking Council to consider, comment on and approve Case for Change, which proposes 3 unitary councils for Suffolk. Members will remember that in March of this year, Council agreed to support a draft interim plan, which was to develop proposals for multiple councils for Suffolk. This was then developed between the Borough Council and the 4 other district councils across Suffolk. The government were happy with the interim proposals we submitted and that they met their criteria, and so work continued, eventually coming to the conclusion that the best solution was to have 3 unitary councils. This was put to Council in July, and Council at that time agreed to adopt the 3 unitary model. Since then, the model has been developed and refined, And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the people across the 5 councils who have devoted so much time and effort into ensuring that our proposal is the excellent document which you see before you today. I'd also like to thank the very many people and organisations who offered their own views, which helped shape what we have before us. I am confident that this proposal offers the best opportunity for effective and resilient local government for Suffolk. In very simple terms, the proposal is for 3 unitary councils. One covers what is currently West Suffolk Council and some of both Mid Suffolk and Baber. The second covers Ipswich and the surrounding area, and the third covers most of the coast and a very rural inland area. These 3 new unitaries follow sensible and natural boundaries. Indeed, they're similar to those we had prior to the 1972 Local Government Act, where East and West Suffolk County Councils, plus the Metropolitan Council of Ipswich, were dissolved and replaced with the 2-tier system which we currently have. And in fact, these boundaries are also very similar to those the police have set for their operational areas and the new Integrated Care Board for Norfolk and Suffolk has chosen for their areas. When you look at them on the map, they just make sense. It's important that these new councils can be shown to be financially sustainable and resilient. The work we've done, is my microphone cutting out? Shall I carry on? Or? Yeah. It's important that these new councils can be shown to be financially sustainable and resilient. The work we've done with our consultants, KPMG, and our own internal modelling show that they will be sustainable and resilient, and that this model can generate annual savings of £34 million a year and allow a reinvestment into services of £20 million a year. It also shows that council tax can be equalised across the new unitaries within the first year. The new councils also allow for true public sector reform. They will be able to offer tailored solutions with flexibility to work locally or in concert with other partners across the county or even beyond. In fact, public services are already offered by our county council in very similar areas to those we're proposing. Adult social care and children's services are complex and costly. Working with the Social Care Institute for Excellence, we've been able to show that smaller unitaries could release up to £67.5 million a year for these services. This work has also shown that place-based local authorities, like those in our proposal, are very effective at assessing people's needs, community and partnership working, safeguarding, and learning and innovation. Other research by another body, People 2, suggests that potential benefits would likely be much lower for a large single unitary council. For me, though, the most important feature of our proposals is that it keeps services local and keeps people's councils and gives people councils that they can relate to and recognise. Basically, 3 keeps local councils as local and small as possible, whilst balancing the need to make more efficient use of public money. You can see this clearly when you look at the number of councillors 3 unitaries would have. The rules around this, set externally, say that any unitary of any size should have between 30 and 100 councillors. Our model is proposing between 60 and 66 for each unitary. This gives between 180 and 198 councillors across Suffolk. Each councillor would represent around 4,000 residents on average. If there were to be just one unitary with only 100 councillors, you have approximately 8,000 residents per councillor. On the 3 unitary model, councillors would have a far more manageable workload, and more importantly, residents would have a much better access to their councillors. Alongside local government reorganisation, there are plans for devolution. We will have a new mayor for Norfolk and Suffolk. The new mayor's board would have only 2 voices on the board under a single model for Norfolk and for Suffolk, with just one perspective from each of Norfolk and Suffolk. Under a model for 3, there would be more voices better able to represent the differences across the different areas. They would enable the mayor to deliver locally tailored, on-the-ground improvements that meet local need. This would also give our residents a similar representation of Norfolk's, as Norfolk districts and borough are working on similar plans to ours, with 3 unitaries proposed there too. In fact, there has been strong cooperation across the 2 counties, and we're preparing a joint submission, albeit of 2 separate cases based on 2 separate sets of data. It's impossible to cover all the ground in the report we're voting on tonight. There are approximately 130 pages of the report, and I'm told something around 35,000 words. So what I've said already is just skimming the surface. I'm sure, though, that the following debate will draw out some of the detail I've had to skim over. But I'll just finish by saying that this proposal offers the best balance between efficiency and value for money on the one hand, and giving people the confidence that their local council is indeed local. And perhaps most importantly, it gives the people of our area the best opportunity to have effective services designed to fit local needs, rather than a simple one-size-fits-all solution. Council, I move the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waterman. I would like to call upon Councillor Victor Lucanic, Deputy Leader of the Council, to second the motion.
Chairman, I'm happy to second the motion, and I reserve my right to speak later.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lucanic. I will move to current requests for speaking and invite Councillor Andy Neal to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Everyone in the room has already experienced a unitary. That's how West Suffolk became formed. And I'm talking from the perspective of Mildenhall's residents, since they're the ones who elected me. When we was Forest Heath, Mildenhall sat behind Newmarket. The pecking order was Newmarket, Mildenhall, Brandon, Lakenheath. And rightly so, we sat in second place. Then West Suffolk was formed, and we sat behind Bury North, Bury South, Bury East, Bury West, Haverhill, Newmarket, Mildenhall. Should we go to a single unitary, Mildenhall's going to sit behind Lowestoft, Beccles, Bungay, Woodbridge, Ipswich, Felixstowe, Sudbury, Needham Market, Stowmarket, Halesworth, Hadley, Bury, Haverhill, Newmarket. So I'm not in favour of the single unitary. But the 3 unitaries isn't something that I'm in favour of either, because it puts us in a worse position than what we are in now. If we go for the 3 unitaries, there's going to be another 27 miles of the A14 for that unitary to focus on. No more development on the A11, which is an economic corridor. West Suffolk have ignored progress with that. So I feel that I can't support the 3 unitaries either. I will be abstaining, and I can only hope that the new leadership of the unitary sheds a bit more attention towards the A11. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Neal. I would like to invite Councillor Tony Brown to speak, who's next on my current requests.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The whole thing around this is that it wasn't asked for. You know, it wasn't high on the residents' list of things that they wanted done in West Suffolk or Suffolk generally. It was imposed on us from above, from the government. So, you know, that really has put a lot of people's backs up, is that no one had the choice in any of this. You know, and to be fair, we had, as Councillor Neal just said, a local government reorganisation not that long ago. We combined councils, we became more efficient, we saved money. Where does it all end? We end up with one council for Suffolk, and then in 5 years' time, the government then decides to amalgamate Suffolk with Norfolk. And our residents are becoming more remote all the time from their local democracy. Local democracy does cost money. It's, you know, it got here by blood, sweat and tears, and we've got a duty to defend our local democracy. The best option out of all the different options, I would have rather had, as it was back in the day when we had 8 or 9 councils that represented, you know, Suffolk. It meant that, you know, local people's voices were heard by their local councillors and local decisions, and they're the people that know best, you know, around their future in their local area. As I've always said, you know, we're on the fringe down in Haverhill on the Essex-Cambridgeshire border. You know, we could potentially, if there's a single councillor, have councillors from Lowestoft, you know, decided on the future of development in Haverhill, somewhere where they're not even elected. So, you know, I'm 100% behind, as I say, I'd rather have 8 or 9 councils, but the 3 council solution does it for me. And at the end of the day, any money that's saved won't be going back to the residents, it'll be going back to the government. I can bet your bottom dollar is that, you know, when the council tax comes along, it will be this, you know, no cheaper, but you'll have a lot less democracy. So, yeah, I will be voting for the 3 councils solution. I don't like big government. I don't like big councils. I think, you know, I'm a people person, and I think, you know, the bigger the council, the less say that you have. So I will be supporting the motion for 3 councils. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. I would like to now move to Councillor Becky Hoffensberger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin my thoughts on the business case before us, may I first express my gratitude to the officers who have worked tirelessly throughout this process. They've done an excellent job, and I know it's in a very short timescale with a lot of information to put in, so thank you. However, I am afraid that's where the positives end for me. And before I hear any cries of course she says this as a Suffolk County councillor who has already expressed her preference, it's precisely because of my position and the knowledge I hold of how both district services and county services are delivered that I say this with confidence, that unfortunately the 3 council business cases really does show a fundamental misunderstanding of how those county-wide services are delivered. And I want to draw your attention to a few examples. Let me begin with the financial case for change. The business case before us is built on assumptions rather than on solid evidence-based data. Savings calculated using examples drawn from 14 previous cases for change, unitary proposals across England. The problem with that approach is clear. It's based on projections on what was planned, not what was actually achieved. You cannot simply cut and paste another area's business case and expect the same outcomes here. That what works elsewhere, or in theory, does not always translate into reality or take into account our local unique circumstances. The adult social care implications of the proposed 3 unitary model deeply concern me. Splitting Suffolk into 3 councils would introduce unnecessary complexity and duplication, leading to higher costs, increased bureaucracy, and most worryingly, a postcode lottery in care services. This restructuring could cost an additional £27 million annually. Furthermore, the business case heavily relies on non-local data from organisations like People2, overlooking critical factors such as the fair cost of care, narrowly focusing on residential and nursing home costs, neglecting home care expenses, and disregarding the need for providers to make a reasonable profit or invest in service quality. This approach undermines provider confidence, threatens the sustainability of our care sector, and in contrast, today I received a letter from the Chair and Suffolk Care Association representing care providers across the county expressing support for the one Suffolk model over multiple unitary options. This endorsement reinforces my concerns. When we look at children's services, the risks don't go away under a 3-unitary model. In fact, they grow. Fragmenting these services introduces both upfront and ongoing costs, creates complexity, and jeopardises quality, sustainability, and continuation of care. The more boundaries we erect, the greater the chance that children and families will fall through the gaps. splitting safeguarding services cause delay, confusion, and will struggle to maintain effective partnership working, essential to keep children safe and well supported. Highways, a very visual service to the public, which actually gets barely a mention in the business case. Separating these services out again adds another tier of senior management, less effective responses to emergencies such as Storm Babette, lack of pooling resources. Dealing with national highways on the A14 proves problematic as it will cover 3 unitaries. Mr. Chairman, I could go on, but time is limited. I want to just briefly touch on local connections and commonality between unitary councils. Let's take Rattleston and Stowmarket. 20 minutes away from Bury St Edmunds, yet those communities find themselves in East Suffolk with their anchor town of Lowestoft 1 hour and 20 minutes away. I'll let you draw your own conclusions, re local connections with that case. Mr. Chairman, I am sorry to say that despite my hopes to see merits in a free unitary model, what I see instead is a business case built on assumptions, not reality. It introduces complexity instead of smarter, simpler structures. It layers on additional senior management, sacrificing economies of scale, and gives us a postcode lottery for services. While I've heard the phrase, bigger isn't better, in this case, smaller certainly isn't the best option. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hoffenberger. I would like now to move to Councillor Diane Hine, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to pass on my thanks to members and our officers for all the work that has gone into this submission. You have heard already from the leader that the modelling that has been done shows that 3 unitaries is a sustainable option for Suffolk. Our proposal is financially robust. It delivers savings, opportunities for investment and income, crucially with opportunities for services such as adult and children's social care. It is a balance of making sure the numbers and budgets stack up, but that we deliver what residents want, which is locally focused unitary councils, which also enables locally generated income to be spent locally on what is important and needed for the local area. Equally, 3 unitaries can better represent Suffolk in supporting the Mayor deliver vital transport and other infrastructure that will benefit local communities and the county as a whole, so it can play its part in helping drive and grow the national economy. Our model is, it's very confusing when it goes, our model is based on both national evidence but also local information to paint an accurate picture of cost. What works elsewhere and, importantly, what will work here. We have proven through our modelling that council tax can be harmonised within the new councils within the first year and within the current referendum rules. It is worth remembering that although we have been asked to produce modelling that demonstrated 3 unitaries can work, it will in fact be the newly elected council that will make the decisions on where and what budgets are spent on and what level of council tax it will set. We cannot and must not dictate that. 3 councils for Suffolk will give the new council the best start financially for the communities and businesses it serves, and I fully support the proposal this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hine. I would like now, if I may, to move to Councillor Marilyn Sayer, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have read both proposals and, to avoid repetition, have also looked at this from another angle. I was not a councillor when our present senior financial staff were employed, but I assume that former councillors were confident in the qualifications of their appointees. Indeed, the state of the council's present finances would suggest that their competence is unquestionable. They are better qualified and have spent thousands of hours more looking at all the possibilities than any of us sitting here. These same staff did not jump to any conclusions when LGR was first proposed. Indeed, they thoroughly examined all the information available and employed a firm with extra skills and previous expertise required to crash the numbers. Meanwhile, we have been able to comment, criticise and question. Our own officers sought assistance from many sources and other relevant councils and bodies, including the Social Care Institute of Excellence. It was only after a number of months' intensive research and investigation that our own council officers came to the conclusion that 3 unitaries for Suffolk would provide the best outcome for all residents. It might not be the cheapest, but it will be the best value for money achievable. They were late to declare their hand simply because they were thoroughly investigating all possibilities. Yes, many questions remain answered. Dare I mention the number of bin collections again? But most of those questions can only be answered by the decisions of the new unitary authority when it is set up. Talking selfishly, would you rather represent about 4,000 residents in a 3 unitary system or upwards of 8,000 in one Suffolk? After 14 years of austerity, every councillor knows for a fact that there are no longer opportunities for sensible savings in the current system. Our own council officers have carried out diligent due process. We should have faith in their judgment and support their professional opinion that 3 unitaries is the best value for money for our residents. After all, they are invested in the system and they pay council tax too.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sale. Councillor Clark, if I may, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sat here a little confused, actually. I mean, I've read all the papers and the choice for one council, and I just can't understand how anybody here today is saying that the 3 option is the most cost-effective financially, because it just clearly isn't. When you make the comparison with the 1 unitary, the 1 unitary by miles is the most cost-effective way of managing this. And we talk about, and has been mentioned, about how many residents that we would have to look after as a unitary, but what do people think that our current county councillors are doing? They're operating across the whole of the county with the same population and doing probably 90% of the work that the combined councils have to do. Because one thing that this organisation needs to understand is that it's about to walk into a very different world. No longer will it be about how to spend extra money or community chests. It will all be about adult social care and children's services. And when that's soaked everything up, the little bit that's left over goes into the non-statutory services, and that includes highways, and then all the other things that go with it. And what will happen is we will all be asked to make very difficult decisions about what services we're going to cut. It's not like a district council when we have more money than we know what to do with most of the time. A county council is run to the bone. All the adult social care service providers have had their cost reduced over the last 15 years to the bone. So I think this is a real problem. And do you know what will happen? If we have 3 unitaries, if that goes through, which I don't think it will, but if it does, a bright young council leader at some point in the future will say, do you know what? We're struggling to make ends meet again. Why don't we merge all 3 unitaries? And I'm absolutely certain whether it's next year or in 5 or 6 years' time, we will end up with a unitary.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Can I just remind people not to interrupt speakers? Thank you. I would like now to move to Councillor Joe Mason, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to pass on my respect to officers who have put the paper together for us to look at tonight. I'd also like to give recognition to all the frontline staff, our waste collectors. It's very much an existential crisis for many people who feel very uncertain because the sands are shifting under their feet. And I must admit, when we all sit in a chamber talking about people's futures, it always makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And of course, that is true of staff who work at county council as well as each of the district councils. So with that in mind, I always think we should have those people in mind and not necessarily just ourselves. So for me, I've got real problems with this three-county proposal. For me, the numbers don't stack up. I've looked at both. Ultimately, it'll be the Treasury that will decide which numbers stack up, but they are vastly different in their interpretations. And we can promote one or the other as much as we like. Ultimately, it'll be the Treasury that will decide which is the most viable. I'm concerned that it delivers savings on paper by assuming that tens of millions can be stripped out of a system, while at the same time disaggregating adult social care, children's services and SEND. I saw today adult social care as part of the budget review process at county, how complex and what a high-risk service it is. Breaking it apart across three councils creates duplication, cost and danger for the most vulnerable. I genuinely believe 3 unitaries is a gamble with taxpayers' money. The government has been clear. New unitaries must be large enough to be resilient. I know there's some wriggle room, but at only 320 to 340,000 residents apiece, none of the proposed councils comes close to that threshold. This means the model risks failing the government's test entirely, as well as seriously risks failing due to financial limitations. I do believe Suffolk needs to speak with one voice on devolution, on investment, on growth. A strong Suffolk council is a partner the government can take seriously. 3 competing councils would weaken our influence, slow decision making, and risk different parts of Suffolk losing out. And let's be honest about what 3 unitaries would really mean. Competition between councils for funding, for investment, even for government or mayoral attention. It would mean services shaped by different political priorities, with some areas winning and others losing. A postcode lottery in care, in housing, in infrastructure. That's not localism, it's fragmentation. And then changing tack just a little bit, I'm unhappy about the process. Members in this chamber were denied the opportunity to properly debate a 2-unitary model. I wonder how many members would have preferred 2 over 3. Many of us felt 2 could have been a more viable option with stronger fiscal resilience. I do feel this 3-unitary model has been stitched up between districts, bypassing us as members, and in doing so, failing to give us the full and fair range of options that we deserve to consider. The 3-unitary model proposal barely mentions highways at all and virtually ignores county farms. Suffolk's farm estate is a strategic county-wide asset, nearly 5,000 hectares of working land. It supports new entrants into agriculture, promotes biodiversity and delivers vital income for public services. The One Suffolk proposal recognised that, but the 3-unitary proposal doesn't. It fails to publish any county farms transition plan, no timetable, no tenant safeguards, no revenue equalisation. That omission isn't minor, it's material, and I call on the authors of a plan to publish how they will allocate, manage and protect the estate if their proposal was ever to be taken forward. We deserve to know. For me, the choice is clear. 3 councils mean higher costs, weaker services, political competition, postcode lotteries, a flawed process, and neglect of county-wide assets. A single unitary, stronger finances, clearer accountability, and local decision-making through 16 area committees. And I'd like to correct Councillor Brown, as much as I do agree.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I've got one sentence left. I've got one sentence left, please. I can't support a model that is financially weaker, structurally risky, procedurally flawed and damaging to Suffolk's long-term assets. I won't vote for 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mason. Could I now call upon Councillor Ian Holder, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Don't speak very often at this council, but I did read through the 130-odd pages of this report. Unfortunately, I then clicked onto the various hyperlinks that are scattered throughout it, which actually take ages to read and inwardly digest it. In fact, it's almost impossible to do so. the very fact is the appendices actually indicate that a lot of the stats here have come from some Suffolk organisation or another, including the Suffolk County Council. And I've been around long enough to know that our officers have presented a brilliant presentation on the instructions, basically, I think, reading between the lines they've been given. Come up with a 3-unit tree. That's what the council voted on back in March. So we're going to go for it. And obviously there's been great discussions with the partners across the county, in the districts, and we managed to cobble together something that is saying, yeah, we've got to go with this one. It doesn't stack up in my brain. I know the county council have obviously had their own presentations for their own officers to talk through about all these things, and they come up with a pretty stunning majority in favour of one Suffolk. That's not really surprising, is it? But what it's all about is the people who pay the council tax and their bills in this county and elsewhere in the UK. They want value for money in this difficult time that everybody's suffering. It goes on about the weak and vulnerable within this report. Well, the weak and vulnerable cannot be helped if the people who are in work haven't got money to help them, and the money has been dragged out of their pockets by central government, and the county council maybe, or the district council maybe. The other elephant in the room here is the fact that if we have a one Suffolk, it means that, generally speaking, every single district councillor's job goes with it, unless they can, get a unitary seat for themselves. County councillors are much better placed to do that, but I'm not saying they'd do it, because in 2 years' time, excuse me, a lot of people will decide not to stand or retire or not be selected. So hopefully there will be a brand new clutch of councillors to run Suffolk. But we're all going to lose our jobs. I won't be standing next time anyway at my age. But the fact is, as has been said, the officers are worried, very, very worried, because each district council employs a lot of officers and a lot of directors, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. And a lot of those good people are going to have to apply for a new job. And a lot of them won't get it here in Suffolk. And that is very worrying. And as another speaker said, it's going to happen at the Suffolk County Council as well. Nobody is guaranteed a job. Although, having said that, nationally, the civil service cannot seem to actually cut their numbers. They just keep going up every day. So I'm just wondering if there are going to be the efficiencies in a head count. So we need to save as much money as possible and maintain the serious services which have been said about tonight anyway, about children's services, older people, and that sort of thing. So I'm just putting it out there that this is a bit of a dog's breakfast, quite frankly, this 3-tier thing. But I'm not saying the one Suffolk is any better of an answer. I think it'll just save a bit more money for a little bit longer until the bureaucracy catches up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holder. I would like to offer the floor to Councillor Bridget Major, please.
Marvellous. All good time, 3 times. Thank you, Chair. The good people of Morton Hall has sat through quite a few meetings and has been very committed to the best of their abilities to try to work out why they have been put in this situation. Many of them have been told
that it's going to be difficult for them, undemocratic, if they are to go into a one unitary council. And I don't disagree. But unfortunately, we were not given a choice. This was not a democratic process in as far as we, on behalf of our residents, were not being allowed to come up with whatever possibilities we thought was going to be the best way in which to save money and do more for less. The more time I've spent in Morton Hall speaking to people about the choices we've been given, which is between one unitary and 3 unities, they are completely perplexed. They cannot understand. Why did they not have a choice of having 2 unitaries, which seems much more logic and a good halfway house? For the people of Morton Hall to hear from our leader, Councillor Waterman, that it is just very difficult to look after 8,000 residents, they should be very perplexed, because that is exactly what the residents of Morton Hall have and always have had. We have many more than 8,000 residents to look after. So it is not already done. It is done, and that's just how the democracy works, from how the electoral system is at the moment. When we look at the work burden we have as councillors, there is no doubt that the 2 things that people are really concerned about is their potholes and their bin. Fortunately, whether we have a 3 unity or a 1 unitary, there is not going to be a remarkable difference in that, except we can hope that in amalgamating services, they will only have to go to one place to get their queries answered. And it is on that basis that I cannot vote for a 3 unitary. It is quite simply going to make life for residents in Morton Hall even worse than what it is now. So I shall be voting against.
Thank you very much, Councillor Major. Councillor Richard O'Driscoll, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors, members of the public, and our officers. It's been an interesting debate so far, but tonight I'm going to restrict my comments to both adult and children's social care. It's a subject that's very close to my heart. As some of you will be aware, I spent much of my working life, mainly in county councils I had, not only delivering these services, but also trying to bring about change and transformation to improve the quality of the user experience, while at the same time managing increasing demand and diminishing resources. I believe that local government reorganisation is the next step on that journey. It provides a huge opportunity to continue that transformation process by bringing services and those accountable for planning and delivering services closer to the communities and residents who depend on them. The paper, and particularly Appendix A, 3 councils for Suffolk, the case for change, makes clear that 3 unitary councils in Suffolk are best placed to deliver localised services that improve outcomes for residents and reduce costs by focusing on place-based solutions, prevention and personalisation. These views are supported by a strong evidence base. Well, how did we arrive at this position? The starting point for the district and borough councils was that social care is a significant and complex element of the local government review process, and one we need to get right. In working on our proposals, the districts and boroughs have worked hard to understand the current position and the challenges involved. We have done this through data and information sharing with Suffolk County Council about the current arrangements and through the involvement of the Social Care Institute for Excellence, otherwise known as SCI, Mutual Ventures and People 2, three much respected independent organisations who provided appraisal and modelling of options, recommendations for improvement and benchmarking with performance of unitary councils. The challenges faced by adult and children's social care and by the County Council currently are significant. The budget position is that 79% of the total current Suffolk County Council budget is spent on social care, 35% on adult services, 44% on children. The challenges set out on page 18 and 19 of the Case for Change include increasing demand and cost, especially for SEND, looked after children, and long-term adult care. Additionally, there are workforce and skills shortages, access delays, lack of consistency of support for teenagers, and accommodation and placement gaps. The challenges are spelt out in more detail on page 60 and 66 for adults and page 71 and 78 for children. Now, these are not just the views of the boroughs. This is shared information. It's accepted fully by the County Council, who recognise the huge challenges faced in this area. So a key question is, can three unitary authorities both manage and ideally improve the services that we have? And the simple answer is yes. Unitary councils of this size have been operating for many years. In fact, the very first council I worked in, slightly over 40 years ago, I'm embarrassed to say, was indeed a unitary council, and it was significantly smaller than the scale that we are talking about here. But it's important that we look beyond our own views, and for that reason, Mutual Ventures looked at 6 different models that could be used to enable the transition to the three unitary model. Their conclusion was that a separate...
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor O'Driscoll. Can you finish in one sentence, please?
I'll give it a go, Chair. You will not be surprised to hear that their conclusion was that a separate service by each unitary authority would deliver the best, and this was based partly on the benchmarking work undertaken. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Driscoll. Councillor Waldron, please.
Thank you, Chair. I listened to all this highfalutin discussion. Now, I come from a rural sort of ward, and the old farmer boys come across as a bit dense, but they're not. And they've been discussing this over the last couple of months, because I threw the cat amongst the pigeons when we first discussed it. And the general consensus is that one unitary, be it Suffolk, is going to be a complete shambles. And this is no reflection on the majority of the Suffolk councillors, but we're blessed with a particularly inefficient one. So he's not doing anybody any good at all. So they've come to the conclusion that 3 is better than 1. They also have got the very farmer type attitude with social care that you look after your own. So again, 3 is better than 1. You look after your own. So because of that type of thinking, I shall be voting for 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waldron. Councillor Griffiths, if I may, please.
Oh, thank you very much,
The floor
Chair.
is yours, sir.
Sorry? Thank you very much, Chair. I'll be as brief as possible. Indeed, nowadays, try to talk as little as possible at full council meetings. And indeed, I agree with many of the comments made by the excellent councillors in this room to a large extent, so I will try not to repeat that. Having said that, like my previous speaker, I also represent a rural ward, Ixworth, which God knows where it would come on Andy Neal's list of priorities, but nevertheless, again, sorry, I'm distracting myself. I believe, actually, which has already been mentioned, that the government will actually decide in the end, as they did last time when we all managed to come up with an agreement for Suffolk, which was not easy, and it was at the last minute scrapped because the government changed its views about Cambridgeshire. And some of you may remember that, but it was an agonising, in the end, waste of time. Cutting to the chase, and that the government will ultimately decide. I won't go on too much more, but I don't like abstaining at all in general. Although I welcome change and improvement, which I think we need here, but I would infinitely prefer 2 unitaries, which I think would meet most of the demands actually made here across the board, financial, representative, democratic, all those good things. There are bound to be interests that wouldn't like that. It is not an option in front of us today. Again, I very much hope the government will see the sense of our proposals as they did last time until the last minute, and that was to do with Cambridgeshire. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to abstain, not because I'm not in favour of us leading any new unitary here in West Suffolk, but because I definitely prefer and believe it's the best option being East and West. So I find myself without an option but to abstain, which I don't like doing. But I very much appreciate all the efforts that both officers and all councillors here have put into looking at this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Andrew Martin, please.
Thank you, Chair. The geographical footprint of the 3 authority proposal strongly aligns with many other of our strategic public sector partners. If adopted, the 3 authority proposal will allow each authority to have a laser focus on working with our strategic public sector partners to ensure that inequalities are significantly reduced and those decision makers are collectively accountable, recognisable, accessible and responsive to our residents' needs. Therefore, I will be supporting the proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Glossop, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank the officers who've done great work, and I'm in awe of the very well-versed councillors who've spoken this evening, and I've listened to what everyone has to say. But I've had very little input into whether it's 1 unitary or 3 unitaries. So I find it quite difficult, really. But at the end of the day, central government are going to decide what we will have, because they asked us to put in business cases. And if we didn't put in a business case, they would decide what was going to happen in Suffolk anyway. So I really can't support 3, and I don't support 1. I would like to be able to support 2, but we do not have it on the table. So I can only hope when everything goes into the government that they look at it all, and I hope it gets fed back to them how many of us actually would support a 2 unitary, because I think that's very important. But I will not be voting for 3 this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you very much, Councillor Glossop. Councillor London, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Local government really does need to be local. I just, on Google Maps just now, had a look, and from my ward of Exning, as we speak right now, I can get from Exning to an Oyster Map tube station quicker than I can get from Exning to Shire Hall in Ipswich. That's not local. That's not local representation. And whilst I agree, I have some questions about what's in this. I have significant questions about what was in the 1 unitary model. I will be voting for 3, and as we are unwhipped, that is my decision. And for those members that are on the other side, just remember that we are not whipped. and that if you turn your head and look over and you see hands going up in the air, that is an individual decision of each and individual councillor. And bear that in mind when you make your decision, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor London. Councillor Adrian Whittle, please.
Thank you, Councillor Whittam. We're here today because we believe in local democracy, in councils that serve communities, not distant bureaucracies. But right now, that principle is under threat. The Labour government is floating plans to reorganise local government. But let's be absolutely clear, this was not in their election manifesto. There is no democratic mandate for it. There is no public vote, there was no public consent, just a top-down idea with no bottom-up support. And what's the justification? There isn't one. The Bennett School of Public Policy at the University of Cambridge has shown that these type of reorganisations are costly, disruptive, and do not deliver savings. They don't improve services, they don't strengthen representation. In fact, they often do the opposite, eroding local identity and distancing decision makers from the very people that they're supposed to serve. Need proof? Look to New South Wales, Australia. They've tried it. They forced council mergers, and what happened? The large councils did not deliver efficiency savings. They were not responsive to local needs. And now, many of these mergers are now being reversed. The policy was, in their words, discarded into the waste bin of history. I do not want to see West Suffolk or Suffolk to be dragged down that same very path. It's failed. So I ask Councillor Waterman, why are you entertaining a reorganisation that your government has no mandate for and that no evidence supports, even when Australia is reversing course because large councils have proven to be failed and delivered the savings that their communities wanted. So let's not repeat these mistakes. Let's protect our councils, let's defend local communities, and let's put local voices first. Considering the two choices, my preference is 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whittle. Councillor Donna Higgins, please.
Again.
Yeah, no.
Do it again.
Don't touch it. Right, off you go.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so I think the point here is about how we spend public money and making the most efficient and best use of public money. That, for me, is one of the reasons why that report by the Social Care Institute for Excellence has to be taken note of. They found through their extensive inquiries, which are totally separate from our own, that those smaller unitaries that they looked into were better at assessing people's needs, community and partnership working, safeguarding and learning and innovation. These are the things that we need to be putting public money into. On top of that, they suggested that in addition to our calculations and those of the company that we employed to help us with those calculations, they suggested that there are additional savings that we could make that are actually far above the ones that we thought we'd calculated. So with that, I think we would be really silly to ignore such professional and expert advice, and that's why I will be voting for 3 unitaries.
Thank you very much, Councillor Higgins. I would like now to move to Councillor Peter Armitage, please.
Thank you, Chair. I won't reiterate or repeat all the very intelligent arguments I've heard around the chamber today. I just want to put in a word for Moreton Hall residents. At a debate this summer, which Moreton Hall residents arranged, I detected no misunderstanding and no confusion about what was being put in front of them. In fact, there was a lively and intelligent debate. Just to point out, Morton Hall is a large ward. That's why we have 3 councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armitage. Councillor Stennett, please.
Thank you, Chair. How we got here, my understanding is Suffolk has a deficit. They obviously want 1 because it does give the best savings. I wanted 2. I've been very vocal on that. Councillor Rout, who I must thank, gave me all the information on 2. But where we are today, the options are 3 or 1. I can't support 1 because I believe, well, my residents believe that it is poorly run and managed. Just take the highways. They give it to their contractor who subs it out to a Bury-based contractor that works here. So if you have local, you can get local savings. I just took this about this Bury generally. I thought 2 was better, but when you take, concern of Lowestoft and you look at the geography, 3 makes sense, as what Cliff said earlier. 3 does make sense. And the residents, what they told me out of the surveys we've done, they want local representation. They don't want rural from Ipswich. They want 3 unitaries or more. That's what they want, and I'm happy to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stennett. Councillor Wijanayake, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard lots of differing views. I've heard lots of differing views. And we are here because a group of elected officials, people, have actually put us forward for this first tranche for reorganisation. So we are where we are. We cannot debate whether, are we going into it? We can't do that because that's not what we're here to debate. We're here to debate whether this proposal is put forward to government. And from everything my residents have said to me, they want local representation, and other councillors here have said that as well. And that's why we need to keep in mind what our residents say to us. And every single resident that I've spoken to, and through my parishes, they've all given me that one message. And that's why I'll be voting to put this motion through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wijanayake. Councillor Julia Wakeland, please.
Thank you, Chair. When I was elected first in 2012 to St Edmundsbury Borough Council, I was very proud to be a member of that council, and it was smaller. We made a decision to link up with Forest Heath, first by shared services and then by fully merging. I had my doubts about that in some ways because I felt we were getting away from that idea of being local. As it happens, I think that the council, West Suffolk Council, is working well. And I understand the need for combining our resources. I feel that going to 1 for the whole of Suffolk is, frankly, it's a step too far. It's definitely not bigger is better. Every single resident, like Councillor Wijanayake, not one resident has said to me, oh yes, I really want to have 1 Suffolk. The perception that I and most of my residents who've spoken to me have is that we have not been well served by Suffolk County Council here in the West. More attention, whether deliberately or not, appears to be paid to the East. Whether that's true or not, that's certainly the perception, and if you look at some of the spending decisions that have been made, they would bear that out. Regardless of that, we need to keep as small as possible. Initially, I too felt that 2 unitaries was the right one. But we have to bear in mind that Ipswich and that area want 3 as well as others. And as Councillor Waterman said, if you look at the geography, it makes sense. So I shall be voting for this, and I urge everyone else to vote for this. It will serve our residents best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Carol Bull, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's been a very interesting evening, and people are very passionate and they've thought about this an awful lot. But if you stop and think, the time we're spending here and what we're doing is pretty meaningless because the decision is not with us, it will end up with government. And the time that we have spent on this is amazing. If you have 3 unitaries, just imagine they've all got to set up and combine all the different units. The amount of time involved in that, I can't see how it can be financially a better option. But at the end of the day, we've all been able to have our say, and we understand lots of different people's aspects of it, but it's out of our hands. And I'm sorry, I can't vote for this because it's a meaningless vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol Bull. There's nobody in the list now to speak, so I would...
You sure?
Sorry?
Just check that nobody else definitely wants to speak.
No, nobody else left to speak. So I would call on Councillor Lucanik as he reserved his right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are many reasons to vote for the 3 unitaries for Suffolk, and I will highlight just the 2. We have all had dealings with county, and at times it has been laborious and exhausting. I'm in favour of a leaner, more agile unitary capable of changing direction if need be. As a county councillor for Brandon, I have over 9,000 people in my division, which is challenging. And I have the help of 2 other district councillors for my district work. In a 1 unitary model, Chairman, there will be just 1 councillor covering Brandon, and they will be on their own. In a 3 unitary model, the role will be shared by 2 councillors. Chairman, make no mistake, I will support the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lucanik. Councillor Waterman, would you like to close the debate, please?
Yeah, thanks very much. And can I thank all members for what I think has been a very well-mannered and a very thoughtful and a very thought-provoking, actually, debate. And I think we can be proud of our chamber tonight. I'm not going to try and answer every single point that everyone's made, because I don't want to keep us here till midnight. And I think for everybody who's spoken against, someone else has spoken in favour. I will just pick up one thing that Councillor Bull said. And she said she felt it was a meaningless vote. I don't think it's a meaningless vote. We are going to be presenting a case to the government for what we believe is the best solution for Suffolk. Other authorities will be presenting different cases, and they will no doubt feel theirs is the best solution for Suffolk. This is a very important change, as what other councillors have pointed out. I want our voice to be there at the table, being heard, so that we can get the very best for our local residents. And so because of that, I think it's vital that we keep our place at the table in these discussions. Because of that, I urge all councillors to support this motion, and I'll end there. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Council.
Thank you so much, Councillor Waterman. I would now like to move to the vote, please. Could I have a show of hands of all those in favour of the motion? Please keep your hands up so that the officers can count.
You need an advocate. Can you make sure your hands are right up so I can see them, please? Yes.
Did you leave?
Did he leave us out?
You too, right?
Can we put them down now?
Right, thank you. I think those in favour have now been successfully counted. Those against, please.
Testimony.
Happy? Okay, could I have those that would like to abstain from this vote, please? I take it that's carried. Yep, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Whilst I'm about to announce that business is concluded for this extraordinary council meeting, I'm going to offer a short comfort break for the cabinet members, and they are requested to return to this room in 10 minutes, where they will finish their deliberations on this. All other councillors, members of the public and press are invited to observe these proceedings if they wish to do so, but they won't be able to take part. In the meantime, I invite members to leave the chamber via the east side where there is refreshments. Yeah. But before you all go, I would like to remind you that tomorrow at high noon on Bury Market, there is a person in this room that will be shaved like Samson. His head will be bald, and I would ask you all to dip into your pockets, please, for my two chosen charities. Not tonight. You can always speak to Claire, and there are what are those funny squiggly square things that QR codes where you can donate online. And I would be most obliged if you would help me support my charities. Thank you very much indeed. And let the feast begin.